Three from the back, Brendan.
That pace is fairly reasonable. It means they're going to give themselves chances here because it makes sense to run reasonably fast when there are places for the four fastest losers. And I think this plays to advantage for Graham Williamson, who I would imagine he just got involved in a bump there with Steve Scott, but I would imagine he'll be getting involved later in the race by trying to inject some pace. But Graham's been very unlucky in major championships, and here again he's had injections in his foot before he started, and it just seems that his international big-time career seems to be full of hazards and full of problems. But hopefully Graham can get involved in the race from now on and get himself up in the front and help the pace along, give himself chances to qualify as the first four or one of the four fastest losers.
So Nemeth on the bend, Busse outside him, Maya Vitali outside him. Graham Williamson, three from the back, and letting this pack just get a little bit of a gap on him. 1:57.72 at 800 metres. Kubista of Czechoslovakia in third. Graham Williamson moving out, going up, and you can see that Steve Scott of America has moved into fourth place. Graham Williamson has gone past him now with that lovely pecking style of his, and goes up to take the shoulder of Andreas Busse, the East German. Busse on the shoulder of, and Graham Williamson coming up and looking good at the moment. Saeed Awita on the outside, really must be feared. Scott watching him. Graham Williamson having sorted himself out from the back on the shoulder of Busse, and is running well. They take the bell this time. There's going to be a little trouble. He can't get through. He's looking for daylight. He's got himself slightly boxed. He's pushed Kubista back, and Nemeth is out of it, and so is Omar of Ireland. And still Andreas Busse leads from Awita, and then Steve Scott, and then Graham Williamson as Gonzalez comes into fifth place. Gonzalez with Uwe Becker moving up. Only four go through by right, and suddenly Williamson's lost for pace, and he's injured his foot. He looks as though he's turned a foot and he's in trouble. He really is. Awita goes for the line. Scott is facing him. Then Busse, then the West German Becker, then the tall Czechoslovakian Kubista, and then Gonzalez, but no place for Williamson as he drops back and he's limping around the rest of the track, and that's so sad. Awita looks across. Scott and he are very comfortable in first. Busse, and there's a battle for fourth, remember. The tall Czech Kubista comes up, the West German makes it, and the East German Busse is run out of it unless he gains a place on time. 3:36.44, the winning time, and Graham Williamson just crossing the line, obviously dejected, but it looked as though his foot had gone. When he tried to exert pressure and he tried to accelerate, he really couldn't take it, and suddenly the race was over for him with 300 metres to go. Brendan, were you watching that when he went?
Well, I feel so sorry for Graham, because he is really going to be a great athlete, and he hasn't had the chance to prove it in any of the world's top arenas because he's been dogged by injury, by misselection, by some kind of and now by some kind of injury where he's had injections into his foot of local anaesthetic and also of cortisone run.
There's confirmation that Scott and Awita are safe for the line. Kubista, the tall Czech, comes up third. Uwe Becker in fourth. Then Andreas Busse fifth. Must wait to see whether he's qualified for the final.
Oh, we got the athletes out now for this rather dramatic second semi-final of the 1500 metres, in which most of the world's top athletes are going. They've been seeded on their heat times when they ran tactically, and by some unfortunate fluke, it's brought together some of the best athletes in the 1500 metres who are almost bound to go out at this stage of the competition. The two Britons that have come together are Steve Cram, the Commonwealth Games European champion, and the world record holder, of course, Steve Ovett. Just run through the lineup for you. Drawn on the inside, Eddie Stevens, then Mike Boyd, Sidney Marie of America, Zdravkovic of Yugoslavia, Olympic finalist who beat Seb Coe at Crystal Palace. There's John Walker of New Zealand, the former Olympic champion and world mile record holder, Ray Flynn of Ireland, Patrick Nani of Italy, Steve Cram of Great Britain, Kurek of Poland, Ovett, Great Britain, Abascal of Spain, Delise of Switzerland, and Tom Byers of the United States. The distance there in the long jump, 6:43 for Bev Kitt.
And she qualifies, David, which is marvellous.
Won by Steve Cram, then Kurek of Poland, Steve Ovett, the world record holder, Abascal of Spain, Delise of Switzerland, Tom Byers, United States. They're very, very anxious to get away. The man who was responsible was Eddie Stevens there on the inside. There are 13 athletes in this. That's another unlucky point, not the number, but the fact there's one more than in the first semi-final. The second semi-final of the World Championship 1500. Oh, very quickly, Oved has moved his way across. A bit of bumping and boring going on, but not too much with a big field like this. Tom Byers takes it up now. Renowned as a pacemaker, but now earning his position as a true racer as well. Patrick Nani in second place. Ray Flynn is third. Abafgal 4. Steve Ovett 5. Sixth place blocked on the curb. Well, in fact, he's blocked now to back to 8. Marie had to come out and belted Walker on the way. Jurek and Poland is there, and Steve Cram next to the back. Still Byers leading. Flynn second. Ovett third. Patrick Nani 4. Abafgal is 5. Sidney Marie is 6. Jurek and Poland in 7th place. In 8th place, Mike Boyd of Keelia as they come round now to complete the first lap. At the time, 57.57, much the same as the first. Tom Byers, hair flowing behind him. The American number 2 lead. In fact, American number 3. Ray Flynn has done most of his running in America, goes second for Ireland. Zdravkovic of Yugoslavia is right up there with them, so too is the Italian Patrick Nani. Steve Ovett keeping wisely clear of trouble on the outside, looking for freedom and certainly not wanting to get on that curb with such a tight field. And here moving up on the outside, the tall figure of Steve Cram, wearing 3.25. 2 laps to go, the American leads. They look to be slowing slightly. Flynn in second place. Then the Yugoslav and the Italian together. Steve Ovett is 5th. Jurek of Poland on the curb alongside Abafgal of Spain. John Walker in the pack there. Steve Cram following John Walker and Mike Boyd following Steve Cram. 1:58.37, and this is slightly slower. Boyd now takes it up on the outside. Boyd, who's now 34. First won a medal in the Olympic Games in 1972. Ray Flynn follows. Flynn follows. Steve Cram goes into third place, then second. Steve Ovett now 4. Abafgal is 5th. 6th, Patrick Nani. 7th, Zdravkovic. And the field beginning to string out as they approach the bell. It's still Boyd leading. Cram second. Flynn third. Abafgal 4. Ovett 5. Walker 6. In 7th place, Zdravkovic. And Marie right at the back, and so too is Tom Byers. Marie's got a lot to do, and Tom Byers pretty well out of the race. 300 metres, the critical point. Cram moving up on the shoulder of Mike Boyd as Ovett goes into 4th place again, just behind Abafgal. John Walker follows Ovett. Ray Flynn beginning to struggle. Pierre Delise showing for the first time. 200 to go, only 4 sure to qualify. Boyd leading. Cram is now taking the lead. Cram, the European champion, the Commonwealth champion, in front. Abafgal goes second. Steve Ovett poised on the outside. Boyd is tiring. Walker trying to get through. But Cram, 4 or 5 yards clear, is trying to qualify. Ovett looks for safety, and he's absolutely comfortable. Cram comes home to win for Great Britain. Ovett in second place. Third is Abafgal. 4, Delise. In 5th place, Walker. 6th was Zdravkovic, and the time faster than the first one, 3:35.77, which means John Walker may well have gone through. But that was very, very convincing running by the two Britons, who ran the race they wanted to run, were never really in trouble, and came through well. Young Steve Cram, who won the Commonwealth and European Championships in the absence of Steve Ovett, shows in every sense he's a man to be contended with. Steve Ovett's known that for a long time. He finished second. Abafgal third. Pierre Delise 4. Walker 5. Zdravkovic 6. And Boyd 7. And the last 3 of those must wait to see if they qualify as fast losers. Brendan Foster.
Well, that was an impressive run by Steve Cram, and I only hope he just didn't do too much. He could have looked over his shoulder and eased off a little, because 3:35 is going to have some effect on him. Steve Ovett, I thought, was very, very clever there and did no more than he could. and maybe some of the losers like John Walker will probably qualify for the final because of the pace. But the two Americans, Marie and Byers, look really to be out of it.
Idea, you know, as I said earlier on in the programme, that if you really think about it, there's no way that any of the top four can lose, and yet three of them have got to lose. And I just keep coming back to the conclusion that if you've got any doubt whatsoever, you've got to put your money on Ovett, who's just the greatest competitor. But you know, really, if Crammy wins it, he thoroughly deserves it, because everything's going wrong for him, and yet he's just proving what a great athlete he is. So it's just such a fascinating race.
Now you rate the top four. Our two, obviously. Steve Scott of America and Owita of Morocco, right?
Yes, I think, you know, realistically, unless they do something special or somebody falls over, I really do think it will be down to those four. And, you know, we know more about Scott, Cram and Ovett. Owita is an unknown quantity, but we've seen from the heat in the semi-final that obviously he's a good runner. Now we'll find out whether he's a great one.
So Ovett on the grounds of experience for David Moorcroft. Brendan Foster.
Well, like I said yesterday, there's only one certainty, as far as I'm concerned, is that Steve will win. But Steve Scott is the man to beat, I think. Steve Scott's come here in his best form ever, and I think Steve Scott is the man in form. He won very well in Oslo, and tactically he should be making a run from about 250 to 300 metres. But everyone seems to be deciding they're going to make a run from 250 to 200 metres. So I imagine we'll see Owita take over with about 400 metres to go. And then Steve Scott will probably try and go in the back straight. Steve Cram will make a go in the back straight. And then Steve Ovett will make a run probably 200 metres from home. And I have a feeling that everything will be decided in the last 30 metres. And if I had to stick my neck out, I would say that Steve Scott was the man to beat. And if Steve Cram came back with a medal of any description, he would have been a hero, because he's had such a disastrous approach to the thing. But Steve, like Dave Moorcroft says in the studio, we'd be fools to bet against Steve Ovett, so I'm hedging my bets.
The man on the inside, then De Lees of Switzerland, who's been running well here. Abascal of Spain. Owita, the fastest man in the world, Morocco. That's the fastest man this year. Becker of West Germany. Kubista of Czechoslovakia. Zdravkovic, Olympic finalist, who beat Sebko at Crystal Palace from Yugoslavia. Steve Cram, he's in 8. Then the last four, Busse of East Germany. Mike Voigt of Kenya. John Walker, the former Olympic champion and world mile record holder, and right on the outside, Steve Ovett, the current world record holder. 11 nations represented in this World Championship final. Great Britain, the only country with 2. There seems to be a thought that Mike Voigt may take it up after the first lap. That big check going through there, Kubista has usually led on his first lap. There's the German, Uwe Becker. West German champion, in which he beat Vesinghagen. Little Zdravkovic of Yugoslavia. Steve Cram alongside him. Those two finished 8th and 9th in the Olympic Games when they were a lot less experienced in Moscow. So, the World Championship 1500 metres final. 3 3/4 laps of the track, and the battle is on. Ovett comes across right from the outside, and on the inside, it's Abascal. And Kubista has not gone on as usual, and the pace looks fairly slow, so it's going to be tactical. I suspect actually in mid-race Voigt will have to take it on because he won't have the finishing speed. So we've got a trot now for the first 200 metres. Nobody prepared for any sort of commitment. Abascal there, Zdravkovic, Steve Ovett, where he always is, slow or fast, just off the shoulder of the leading piece. Brendan Foster.
Well, it is very slow, but at least at the moment it's gentlemanly, because they're not pushing and shoving each other, and they're allowing each other a free run, and that's nice to see, because we have been critical of that all week. But you know, when they run slowly like this in the early stages, their nerves gather, you know, they gather more nerves, and it's not until they start running freely that they lose those nerves. So they'll be as nervous now as they were when they were walking down that terrific tunnel.
Well, very slow indeed on that first lap, 65 seconds. Abascal leads, Zdravkovic in second place. Third is Kubista of Czechoslovakia, fourth Steve Ovett. In fifth place on the outside is Busse of East Germany. Right at the back, Mike Voigt. And in fact, it's slower than the women were after one lap. Now the tall Czech, Kubista, goes in front. But he's not really livened the pace. Owita staying out of trouble wide in the rather faded green vest of Morocco, and Boyd still at the back. Pram trying to find room on the curb. Coming up from the outside is Uwe Becker now, the West German champion. Kubica wins, leads rather. 2 laps to go. And this is certainly being left very late to the very fast men. Still Kubica as they approach 800 metres.